Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Julie Sarce, the author of the upcoming book, My Underground American Dream, which comes out September 13th. I am live from the Facebook Media Center in New York City. Thank you so much for having me, everyone who's behind the phone. Today is actually their one-year anniversary of having this studio, so congratulations to the Facebook team. We are here to talk about a very serious topic. We're here to talk about the current deportation rates that are going on, the private detention centers that we are sending children to, incarcerating them in, and why this issue affects all of us. I often hear people say that President Obama has been really weak on immigration. And for those of you that say that, I have some news for you. President Obama has deported more people than any other president in the history of the United States. Every year that he has been in office, an average of 400,000 people have been deported. And by the way, every time we deport someone, it costs us, the taxpayers, $10,000 to deport each of those people. And that's just money that we're pouring out. That doesn't even include the amount of money that we lose in purchasing power from them, in tax revenues from them, because yes, undocumented people do pay taxes. The latest wave of deportation rates are targeting Central American children and mothers whose asylum cases have been denied and who have been given orders of removal. So let's back up a second. What does that mean? That means that when someone presents themselves at the border and they present a reason or their case for seeking asylum, once an immigration judge hears that case and it's denied, then that person is given an order of removal and they have to leave the country within a certain amount of time. If they don't leave, then they're subject to deportation. So you might say, well, then why aren't these people leaving? Their cases were denied. Well, that's assuming that due process was followed in the first place, which for many of these people, it was not. Imagine if you are one of those mothers or one of those children who has fled unimaginable circumstances in Guatemala, in El Salvador, in Honduras. You left everything behind because the conditions there are so terrible that you would rather risk your life to come all the way through Mexico to present your case. So you are tired, you are traumatized from the trip, and now you're being asked to present your case in front of an immigration judge. Many times without a lawyer present. I can't really make this stuff up. Judge Jag Whale, in a sworn deposition, said that he has literally taught immigration law to 3- and 4-year-olds. These are toddlers who are wearing diapers, and we are asking those children to represent themselves in court. So what are the chances that these people's asylum cases will actually be approved? They're none. They're zero. Those chances are zero. That is not due process. And you might say, well, why are we even giving these illegal immigrants due process? Well, these people are not illegal immigrants. They are refugees. And under our country's laws, there is a process for them to seek asylum. That process is not being followed. We are asking, again, 3-year-old children to represent themselves in front of an immigration judge. So once their cases are denied, we say you have to leave the country. I think it's kind of easy to understand why these people aren't flocking back to their countries. El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras have some of the highest murder rates in the world. In fact, they're in the top 5 countries for the highest murder rates. How desperate would you have to be to give all of your life savings and hand over your child to a stranger to take them on a journey through Honduras, through Guatemala, through El Salvador, all the way through Mexico? Because maybe they'll make it alive here, and maybe they'll have a chance not just of a better life, but of a life, period. That's what is happening here. That's what these people are going through. And one of the biggest reasons that has been thrown around as to why these deportation rates are happening in the first place is because that way we can deter other immigrants, other refugees from coming to the country. But as I just mentioned, these people are desperate. They're so desperate that their unknown fate of whether they will even make it to the U.S., that is better than staying where they are. These policies are not effective from stopping people from coming to the U.S. If we're really serious about stopping the inflow of refugees from Central America, then we have to look at the policies that we've enacted there. We have to look at the violence that is happening there and the aid packages that we send, and yet we turn away when we know there's corruption happening and none of that aid money is actually going to help the people that it's meant for. So once those cases are denied, then these people are subject to deportation, and these raids are supposedly targeting just those people. But what happens is that these raids are actually terrorizing entire communities, because if an immigration officer is coming in the middle of the night to knock on someone's door to take away mothers and children, other undocumented people who might also be in that home could also be deported. This is just creating horror and a lot of fear among immigrant communities. These private detention centers, and I have to take a breath because it pains me when I think about what we're doing to these children. We are incarcerating 8-year-old children, taking their shoelaces away and putting them in cells. We are incarcerating mothers and toddlers. And the only people that are benefiting from these policies are for-profit private corporations. When we talk about reforming the criminal justice system, we cannot leave detention centers out of the conversation, because these detention centers are the worst of the worst. In fact, the Obama administration was just sued last night because these detention centers violate all sorts of human rights conditions. These detention centers don't give enough food. They give Tylenol to kids for any ailment. They don't get to see a doctor. They're just given a Tylenol and told to go away back to their cells. That is what's happening. And not just that, but women, there have been reports upon reports of women being sexually harassed by the guards at these detention centers. This is happening in the United States of America under a Democratic president who has many, many times said really bad things about Donald Trump's plan to deport 11.2 million people, but yet he has deported 2.5 million people in the last 7 years that he's been in office. We cannot elect another president that will continue these policies, and even worse, we cannot elect another president who will further criminalize our immigrant community. I mentioned earlier that it costs us $10,000 to deport each person that gets deported. Under a Trump presidency, which scares me to even say and utter, he says he would deport 11.2 million people. That would cost us over $114 billion. Again, that's not counting the loss in purchasing power, the depletion in our GDP from having that kind of shrinkage in the population. So the only people that are really paying for these misinformed, misguided policies is us. We are the ones who are carrying the financial burden of those policies. On the flip side, if we actually acted on immigration reform, which could address some of these issues of how people seek asylum, we would add a cumulative $1.2 trillion to the GDP over a decade and increase all earnings of Americans by $625 billion. On top of that, we would create an average of 145,000 additional American jobs. This only makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that we are turning our backs on the most vulnerable of people. When we fail these children and when we fail these mothers, we aren't just failing them. We are failing ourselves. And we are failing the values of our country, which are to protect our children. If you want a more personal story, a more personal tale of what these policies do, of what deportation does, I encourage you to read Diane Guerrero's memoir called In the Country We Love. I must warn you, though, that you will need some tissues, and I don't recommend reading the memoir on a New York City subway because you will definitely get some looks. So with that, I'm going to hopefully take some questions, and then we'll be out. Waiting for the questions to come up. So this question is from Lisa, and she wants to know approximately how much money do undocumented immigrants contribute in taxes? Thanks for asking that question. Undocumented immigrants have paid around $100 billion into the Social Security Fund over the last decade, and we paid around $10 to $12 million a year in state and local taxes. So the amount of taxes that we contribute is really significant, and the amount of money that we contribute into the Social Security is money that we will never be able to get back, or that money that we will never be able to benefit from. Sam wants to know, what other book should I read for this issue? So it depends if you want to read more about the policy side of things or more personal stories. Diane's book, as I said, is incredible. I've cried the entire time that I've read it because I so much can relate to the pain that she felt going through the experiences that she went through. My book comes out in September, and so I encourage you to get that as well. Well, thank you so much. That's all the time that we have. As I said, you can pre-order my book now on Barnes & Noble's, Amazon's. I look forward to coming back to the Facebook studio in the fall and doing a book reading for you all. Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you so much for tuning in. Let's keep the conversation going. Please keep posting comments and questions in the comment section. I will also be posting a petition that has been going around that was issued by United We Dream. And I encourage you to sign this petition so that we can put public pressure on President Obama to stop these deportations. Thank you so much.